That Saturday, I felt like I should be revising. I was sat in church, and to be honest, I wasn't concentrating at all. I knew exactly where I needed to be. I needed to be in the library doing past papers. It would have completed the preparation. It would have ticked every box, but despite that, I chose not to go. What stopped me wasn't purely discipline, it was this. I knew that even if I went, even if I did the past papers and walked into that exam feeling ready, I would have carried the weight of being disobedient to God into that room with me. And that guilt would have cost me more than the preparation would have gained me. Thankfully, it turned out that I had done enough. I passed. And what I understood was this. I can achieve more with God without the preparation which I think I need than I can ever achieve without God with all the preparation which I think I need. I've lived that. It's Friday evening. My friends are heading to the library. We have 2 pieces of coursework due in just 3 days. We have labs to prep for. I have a piano exam in 3 weeks. And I'm standing in church singing hymns. That was me at university during my physics degree. And honestly, it felt like a handicap. Before I go any further, let me explain what I'm actually talking about. Because if you've never come across this before, keeping the Sabbath probably sounds like something from a textbook on Judaism. Once a week, from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, I step away from everything I'd normally do on a weekday. No work, no studying, no emails. Instead, I go to church. I do Sabbath school, which is basically Bible study with the people from my congregation, and I spend the day with my church community. It's a concentrated, deliberate turning away from what the Bible calls the cares of this world. Now, I know that phrase sounds a bit old-fashioned, but there isn't any better way to describe it. So for 24 hours, the noise of ordinary life goes quiet. That's the Sabbath. And this isn't something I chose to do after some spiritual awakening as an adult. It's been that way since I was born. This started from childhood. Both of my parents are from Adventist families, so they were raised in this and are very much grounded in this to this day, which meant that from the moment I had any conscious thoughts at all, Friday sunset was the line. No PlayStation on the Sabbath, no football, no secular music, no TV, unless it was the Gaithers, which is a Southern gospel group that my parents' generation regarded as basically the only acceptable form of entertainment on a Saturday. I'll be honest, growing up, I didn't fully understand why any of this mattered. I just knew that was the rule in our house, and it wasn't up for debate. But here's the part that actually stung. I was very into sports as a child. And from a very young age, I understood that no matter how good I was, a career in sport was not going to be possible for me. Professional athletes work on Saturdays, so that was simply the end of the conversation because I was not going to be allowed to work on Saturdays. So instead, I played on Sundays, which sounds fine until you realize that most of my other friends went to church on Sundays. So when they were free, I was in church. When I was free, they were in church. We were always one day out of sync. I genuinely resented it for a while. I took athletics very seriously, and at the time, I genuinely believed that I could have made something of it. That feeling was real, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Obviously, it all worked out. I wouldn't swap the career I have today for anything different. But at the time, that was the cost, and I felt it. It wasn't until university that I really had to decide for myself whether I actually believed in any of this. Because suddenly, the pressure was really on. I studied physics at university, and physics isn't a gentle degree. 2 pieces of coursework a week, labs to prepare for, lectures to review before and after, and I was also preparing for piano exams on top of all of that. A 7-day week would have already been tight for anybody, but on a 6-day week, it was close to impossible. And obviously 6 days because I wasn't doing anything on Saturday. And it wasn't just the academic pressure, it was also social pressure. University life, most of it anyway, revolves around clubbing, which normally happens on the weekend. And I tried clubbing once. It's too loud to have a real conversation with anyone, and I genuinely couldn't see the appeal. But beyond the clubs, everything socially seemed to revolve around the weekend in a way that quietly excluded me. What I found though, and I didn't expect this, is that this acted as a kind of filtration mechanism. Not everyone clubs, not everyone drinks, and the Sabbath almost accidentally helped me find the people who I actually had something in common with. Academically, I won't pretend that this didn't cost me anything. There were courseworks, for example, which I scored really low on, and I knew, or at least I believed, that if I had worked on Saturday, I could have done better. And that's not me being dramatic, that's just the maths of time. What kept me going though wasn't a feeling, it was a list of names. Names of people who had faithfully kept the Sabbath and still smashed it in life. For example, Ben Carson, neurosurgeon. He led the first successful separation of twins conjoined at the head. Another one is Chaplain Barry Black, who serves as a chaplain to the United States Senate. And closer to home, a professor at my own university, Robert Makaya, who was exceptional at his job and didn't negotiate with the Sabbath. These were people who had refused to sacrifice their faith, and they still got to the top. That was the evidence that I needed. Not a sermon, just examples of real people that I actually knew existed. But I want to be honest with you. There was one moment where I came very close to breaking. It was in my final year. I had a thermodynamics exam, which was worth 80% of the final grade for that module. My revision process normally went like this. I'd go through the lectures, I'd work through the practice questions, and then I'd finish with past papers on unseen material so I could actually test myself rather than just feel prepared. The last step was the most important one for me. It was the difference between simply knowing the content and knowing the content well enough to perform under pressure. I had done everything except the past papers for this exam, and the exam was in 2 days. That Saturday, I felt like I should be revising. I was sat in church, and to be honest, I wasn't concentrating at all. I knew exactly where I needed to be. I needed to be in the library doing past papers. It would have completed the preparation. It would have ticked every box. But despite that, I chose not to go. What stopped me wasn't purely discipline, it was this. I knew that even if I went, even if I did the past papers and walked into that exam feeling ready, I would have carried the weight of being disobedient to God into that room with me. And that guilt would have cost me more than the preparation would have gained me. Thankfully, it turned out that I had done enough. I passed. And what I understood was this. I can achieve more with God without the preparation which I think I need than I can ever achieve without God with all the preparation which I think I need. I've lived that, and in that example, it stopped being an abstract concept. It was real to me. So in the long run, I did lose some battles with some poor grades. At least they were poor grades to me, but by and large, I won the war. Thankfully, my exam performance, which carried more weight than the courseworks, pulled me through. And now, a decade later, with the benefit of hindsight, I can see something I couldn't see then. Every single time it didn't make sense, I kept doing it anyway, and things worked out. That knowledge is the thing which matters the most to me. It isn't blind optimism, it's a track record. God hasn't let me down when I've been obedient, even when obedience looked like the more logical option. So what does life look like now? Thankfully, things have worked out, and the Sabbath has shifted from feeling like a constraint to feeling like the one day in a week that nobody can touch. Let me show you what an actual Saturday looks like. I wake up, and if I'm honest, I'm usually preparing my church lesson on the morning itself. I shouldn't do that. It should be done during the week. I'm working on that. I get dressed. I normally wear a suit most of the time. I like suits. And then finally, I drive to church. If I'm playing piano that week, I would have been up the night before practicing the songs until I know I can play them cleanly. The service is live streamed, so mistakes are on record. I still make some mistakes, but I've made peace with that. If I make mistakes, then it's fine, as long as I tried my best. After the service, we eat together. Everyone brings a dish. It's called potluck, and it's one of my favorite parts of the week. You check in on people. You find out what's been going on in their lives. There's something about sharing food with a church community that grounds you. Then a few of us usually head to the park. We chill and might have an afternoon of Bible study. And then in the evening, I'll usually end up at someone's house, playing games, grabbing food once the sun goes down. And then we close with prayer requests and testimonies before I drive people home who might need a lift. And then by the time Saturday night comes, I feel not just rested, but spiritually recalibrated. There's something I've noticed that I can't fully explain, but I'm certain that it's real. My working week is analytically demanding. Data science isn't a job that you can do on autopilot. It requires a particular kind of sustained concentration, and the mental fatigue that builds up across a week is real. But I show up on Monday knowing that burnout is unlikely, not because I'm exceptionally disciplined or because I manage my energy better than anyone else, but because I have one full day coming where I'll completely switch off and reconnect with God. There is nothing more rejuvenating than that for me. So I show up with an energy and a resilience which I don't think I would have if I just worked 7 days straight without taking the Sabbath off. I also, if I do say so myself, think I look healthier for it. I'm a big man with a beard, and people still try to ID me when I buy kitchen knives, so clearly something's working. Keeping the Sabbath also forces me not to procrastinate. Knowing that I have one less day to work means that I can't afford to waste the days which I know I can work. Constraint breeds discipline. It's the same logic as tithing. Returning 10% of your gross income forces you to manage the other 90% much more efficiently. But that's a different video. Here's what I want to leave with you. Whether you share my faith or not, the Sabbath isn't just a rule that someone invented and handed down through a religious institution. The same God who designed the human body built this rhythm into creation from the very beginning. And if the designer of something tells you how it operates best, it's probably worth listening. Think about it like this. You buy a car. The manufacturer tells you that for optimal performance, you need to let it rest every 7,000 miles. If you actually love that car, you follow those instructions precisely, to a T. You won't negotiate with them. You won't skip them when it's inconvenient. And you are infinitely more valuable than any car could ever be. And that's coming from a car guy.